Hello, I'm Dr. Dale Caldwell. Welcome to Family Business World. I have a wonderful guest, Mark Speckhart, who's been with us before. Mark, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Very well, thank you.
Good. Mark is the former CEO of White Conveyors, and he's doing all sorts of amazing things. Mark, first, I want to, it's just an amazing, the White Conveyors is an amazing story, related to the conveyors and dry cleaners and so on. Tell me that story. How did that come about? How did that business come about?
Well, it started many moons ago with my grandfather and another gentleman, a man named Mort Weiss actually started the company, and his father was in the business, and Mort brought in my grandfather, who was a toolmaker. And from that, the business started to flourish mainly because of New York City. Because most of the dry cleaners in New York, they owned or rented the first floor of the building, but they still rented the basement.
Right.
So to utilize the building, they actually created a conveyor that would go from the floor down into the basement and circular around to utilize all that space.
Okay.
So basically from that, the business just grew, and the conveyors actually went into, just became a normal piece of equipment that would go into a dry cleaner.
And so now, who officially invented this conveyor?
I think it was a team effort, really, amongst my grandfather and Mort and Hugo. But it was really, I think, it was a team effort that actually brought it all together.
Well, and so for those watching this show, whenever you go into a dry cleaner, every dry cleaner, you're going to see this amazing contraption, and it really was started with the white conveyors. Okay, so the business is going well. It's starting out. They're doing hustling. What happened next with the business? Was it sold or transferred?
Well, no, the business just exploded and actually went into a variety of different types of businesses. They got into Offutt power file machines. They got into rail parts that would be used inside of a dry cleaning store, and then industrial laundry businesses, the Cintas, the Unifers, all these big national publicly traded companies started to utilize this equipment inside their facilities.
Wonderful.
Then came hospitality, hotels, casinos, and it just started going crazy.
Wow. And it was founded in what year again? What year was it?
It was 1946.
1946. So really this kind of industrial boom, and so then your dad took over?
Yeah, so my father had three other partners within the business, all from another family, the Weiss family. And two of the principals, who were a little older than my dad, decided that they wanted to retire. Mort's son, Donald, was, he really built the business as far as on the management side. He went to Columbia University. He worked for big corporations, so he really had a business mindset. And in 1986, when the tax laws changed, two of the gentlemen, Mort and Lenny, decided that they wanted to retire, so they cashed out.
Okay.
My father, still having 7 kids, and I think 4 of them were still just about to go to college or were in college, me being one of them. He said, I can't retire. So between Donald and my father, they decided to separate the businesses, where my father actually took over the division called White Conveyors.
Okay. And so that business flourished as well, right? The business did very well. And so now let's talk about the family dynamics. And I always tell folks, especially now during this pandemic, that the family succeeds together and struggles together. And so now when you talk about family business, especially family restaurants being closed, that's every family member is out of work. It's not like somebody's working in government getting a check while others aren't. And so families struggle. But there's this conflict that every family has that's built around business and when there's money involved and so on. So your dad's running it and he's looking at succession. How was that process?
Well, my dad, we joined FDU at the time, and the Rothman Institute. So there was and we were really participating in the event there. We ended up having, when you go to these family business forums, they start to try and ask the question on how you are going to actually pass this business down. Are you going to sell it? Are the kids going to be involved? What are their strengths and their weaknesses?
Right.
What, you start to ask these questions, but from an entrepreneur like my father, it begged the question from him. So he started to, it's like, you know what, we really got to do something with this. And so we brought in the professionals. We had some consultants. We were interviewed. Went to joint sessions. We, starting to talk about our goals and what we wanted to do with ourselves, how we saw the business going, who could actually lead this going forward. And, as I said, I'm one of 7 children. I ended up having my 2 eldest siblings were in the business, 1 and 2, and I'm number 6. And my younger brother, John, number 7, later comes into the business. Fast forwarding a lot of stuff here, my one sibling, my sister, told my father, I want to run this business. And, based on the consultants and, him, my father spends a lot of money. They basically came back and said, she wasn't qualified to run the business. She's very good at what she did. She did, accounting stuff, but she, and my older brother was, somewhat a mechanical guy, engineering. He focused in on that kind of stuff because that's really where my grandfather was, my dad was, and as far as myself, I really gravitated toward when I worked throughout the whole business. Not only did I work on the shop floor, sweeping the floors, but also building, welding, putting them together, shipping them, installing them, servicing them, traveling all over the country doing this. So I really got my hands dirty. And at the same time, when you're doing that, you're actually meeting the end user.
Right.
And the customer. And over time, I was somewhat of a shy kid. And it really, I think when I was in college, I remember the only way I could really excel in school, me having a last name Speckhart, and the alphabet, S is always in the back, so I was always in the back of the class. So I had to push myself to sit in the front, and by doing that, I exposed myself, and I started to break out of my shell. And I gravitated toward the sales and really the customer service side.
Yeah. So you were a natural to be the CEO. I mean, you have kind of an engineering person, you have an accounting person, and then you have a people person. And so, so you took that role. How did your siblings take that?
Well, during the process of when my sister said that she wanted to take over run the business, and the consultants finally coming back and explaining to my father, my parents, that she wasn't qualified to do it. She was very qualified to do other things, but that was not her strength.
Right.
And with that being said, she abruptly left the business, and she went on. She was a single mother, adopted 3 wonderful children from Russia, and she went out to go make her mark in something else. Not terribly successful at it. And, again, my parents were there to help her out. And at that time, my father had decided, you know what, I'm getting older. It's time for me to start to, look at spending time at my summer house on Cape Cod.
Right.
And my younger brother and my older brother and myself were kind of thrown into this, running the business.
Right.
Now, mind you, we had a really good support team there that did a lot. We had, operations. We had plant managers. We had VP of sales. We had accounting people. We had customer service. We had all that. The infrastructure was there, but it was the leadership of where we were going. My father was no longer driving the ship.
Right.
So we had to drive the ship, and we noticed that some of our customers were going to be based on having advice from people within the business. We listened to them and said, you know what, this customer isn't going to be around forever, and we have a lot of eggs in that one basket. We got to start looking at going overseas. China's going crazy. Singapore's going crazy. Middle East is going crazy. All of the big hospitality people are all moving internationally.
Right.
We followed them, and thank God, because what happened was in '08, when we had the disaster, the banking disaster, dry cleaning, which was over 50% of our business, completely shriveled up.
Wow.
And the entire economy within the U.S. retracted substantially. However, the international stuff, the Chinas, the Middle East, the Singapores, all of those areas were exploding with hospitality. They were building these mega resorts.
Right.
And that was right in our wheelhouse. And that was, I spent a lot of time over there and meeting all these people and getting to know them. And fortunately for us, we were able to really capitalize on that expansion.
And so you had a number of big clients in China and Asia and the Middle East that sustained you during the...
GM, Sands.
Wow.
All the major hotels, Four Seasons, everybody was expanding over there. So and the nice thing about it is that these companies were American, and they had brought over a lot of the executives from seasoned executives to come over and actually open up these brands around the world.
Wow.
So I didn't have that. It wasn't like I was just necessarily dealing with the Chinese people. I dealt with them completely. They're wonderful people. And, the Middle East people, but we still had the connection with having those American executives over there, which was really good.
Well, and that's a tribute to you. I mean, I've gotten to know you over the year, and I mean, you're a dynamo. You have high energy. You're constantly making things happen, and that was critical. So, all right, so you're doing well. You're one of the few companies doing really well during 2008, 2009, 2010. What happened there?
Well, actually, it was kind of I don't know how this stuff happens, but we ended up buying a competitor right before the crash in '08.
Okay.
Which was same age company as us, but was really concentrating on the industrial laundry business here. And the industrial laundry business in the United States was in fact expanding. So this was a really good thing for us. So what we did was my father business purchased this company called Speedcheck down in Atlanta.
Okay.
And my brothers and I bought the property in which Speedcheck was in Atlanta.
Okay.
And what we did was we ran them as separate companies. However, even though White Conveyors had some overlap in product with Speedcheck, there was a large installed base in industrial laundries with Speedcheck, and the same with White.
Right.
And what we did was we integrated those products together, to fix and re-engineer the product lines so they made them better.
Wow. Mark, we're going to break for a commercial, but I want to pick up right there. So
okay.
Yeah, that actually is a wonderful innovation at a very challenging time. So we'll be right back after the commercial break.
Sounds good.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacqueline. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacqueline.com to book an appointment today.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There you go, Richard. Oh! Is that too hard for you?
No. Is it too hard for you?
Woo! We're playing catch now. Oh, shit.
What do I want to be when I grow up? Maybe a musician? A veterinarian? Maybe an equestrian? Mommy? Well, why not be all these things and more? Consider joining.
Hello, this is Dale Caldwell, your host for Family Business World. I have Mark Speckhart here, who is an extraordinary family business leader and dealing with a family business that was very, very successful. But like many family businesses, has had to deal with family conflict, and we don't hear enough about that. So we're talking about your merging products of 2 companies, Mark, and pick that story up, and then I want to kind of hear about some of the challenges.
Right. So anyway, we did a really nice integration of the 2 companies, and then as the companies as time went on, the market started to shift a little bit. And we had noticed that, based on having advice from banks and stuff like that, that we should start to think about merging the 2 businesses together in one facility instead of running both. And it made somewhat sense, and I've never done a type of thing like this where you bring 2 companies together. It was very difficult. We had a lot of people that had done within our organization had done that integration, and we started to think about how we were going to do this.
Right.
So we got my 3 brothers, my 2 brothers and myself and our management team. My sister's no longer in the business.
Right.
And so we started thinking about how we were going to do this. We started having meetings. Well, my older brother at the time, he was living at my parents' house, and my dad wasn't there. My dad actually had type 2 diabetes. Started getting infections. Ended up leading into some health issues where he ended up having staph infections and stuff like that. So heavy on the antibiotics. And as we were talking about how we were going to do this merger, possibly we didn't know how we were going to do it. My brother was getting nervous about it and started talking to my father about it, and started to fill my father with all kinds of very inaccurate information about how I wanted to close the business, how I wanted to move everything down to Atlanta, how I'm going to change his legacy, and so on and so forth. So things started getting contaminated, and I started talking to my father. I was like, Dad, this isn't what's happening. But every day, my brother kept going back and going back. So now we're getting close to 2014, and my brother was not as much engaged in the business. Whatever reason, he was helping my father out. He didn't feel that he was, I don't know. He was more a problem. He was causing a lot more problems within the business with people.
Interesting.
it was almost, and he was getting older, and maybe he just wasn't satisfied. We tried to talk about it, but
right.
He wasn't a very open guy.
Right. And this is your oldest. This is the oldest brother.
This is my oldest brother. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
My father, who started, not have complete understanding of what was going on completely. He was getting fed a lot of misinformation. Now, looking back, I can see what was happening. I had a brother who was insecure. I had my younger brother was great. We talked all the time. We were fishing buddies, golf buddies. We were very open and honest. And then it was really weird. My father ended up going. We didn't know about this, but my father and mother, on their anniversary, my father ended up falling at a restaurant needing a hip replacement.
Oh, boy.
I later find out that my father was actually, and mother were actually at his attorney. And mind you, my mother, when my sister left the business, my mother actually believed that it was Steve and John and myself who kicked her out of the business. Mary physically left the business by herself on the recommendation of a consultant that she ended up hiring to do an evaluation of her. She said, Mary, you're not capable of running the business. Listen, you need to go off and do something else. Then she left. My parents, I know, were there for her financially. And for her children, and that was great. That was what they wanted to do. And then in 2014, mind you, in 2011, I ended up getting cancer, stage 3 cancer. So I had to go through all of that.
Oh my goodness!
So I had my 11 chemotherapies, my radiation, my operation, my 9 hours, surgery, and then of course my recovery. So I, for a better part of a year, I was kind of, I was completely engaged in the business, except for doing some of my other stuff. But the reality of it, I wasn't able to travel internationally. I wasn't able to do that. Cancer's a real shot in the arm, and it's a life changer.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. So let's propel. So that was 2011, and now I'm trying to get to a 5-year mark here. That's where the magic number is. If you get to 5 years without a reoccurrence, you're pretty much something else is going to get you. Statistically, but you never know, right?
You never know.
So it's always sitting in the back of your mind, or in the front sometimes. Every time you got to go get your scans and so on and so forth. Knock on wood. God bless. I'm still here.
Amazing.
In 2014, my father falls at a restaurant. I later find out that my father had actually gone to his attorney with my mother and had, I believe, my mother was very demanding, so I was told, that she wanted my sister back in the business. But she wanted her to come in to run the business.
Interesting.
And now all of a sudden these stories start, conspiracy theories. We see it all the time now. And the stories are, hey, knock that guy down. We're going to make up bad stuff about him. And to pump me up. So that's exactly what they did. In my father's eyes, there was a lot of problems with the business. Mary was going to come in and fix it all. Steve was going to get engaged in the business again and really start to move the products where they should be, so on and so forth. So everything that we had queued up to move forward started somewhat getting disillusioned with my father. My father, out of nowhere, calls a family meeting at my parents' house, and my sister is sitting at the table. We're like, well, what's she doing here? And my father goes, Mary's coming into the business as the president and CEO. You are no longer there, and you guys all report to her.
And what had she been doing? What had she been doing in that meantime? Did she have a CEO position somewhere else, or
nothing? Absolutely nothing. She tried to sell real estate. She tried to start her own company, which was called the Rolo Valet. She tried to come up with a carousel system that would go into like people's closets to hold their shoes or cabinets in the kitchen. It never went anywhere. And she tried, and then she was doing, trying to sell houses, working at Weicker, doing whatever she was doing. But, no, she had absolutely no management, no customer, no travel experience. Again, she was a single mom. She had 3 kids. And, that's kind of difficult to do. I had 3 kids, but I had my wife, too. And she, picked up, the traditional kind of thing. I mean, listen, if my wife had a killer job, maybe I would be taking care of the kids. I would have no problem with that.
Right.
But the reality of the fact is that my father made this decision. And there's nothing I could do because I didn't own the business.
Right.
He did.
Right.
The only thing I owned was that piece of real estate down in Atlanta.
Right.
However, I was in fact guaranteeing some of the credit with the company. So I had skin in the game, but actually no ownership.
Right.
And my father had promised that, don't worry, Mark, don't worry. Everything's going to work out fine. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Well, you know what? It didn't turn out that way.
Right.
After a year, and it was absolutely a brutal year because she basically came in and dismantled everything, criticized everything, and absolutely has no idea about the products, who the customers were, anything. All she did was sit there and kill sequoias, meaning paper, tons of paper, and printing it, and not literally learning the business.
Wow.
So she shuffled it all around, and a year later, we had another meeting at my parents' house, and Mary came in, wrote a letter to all of us, and fired all 3 of us.
Really?
Stephen, and myself. With my parents there.
And what did your parents say? I mean, this is the family business saga. But your parents didn't say anything about that?
Well, I think my sister had. It was basically this. My sister was using it as a power play to get us to roll over and do everything that she wanted to do. She's a narcissist, and she is a control freak, and yet she's also very insecure. So in the bottom line of it, we were fired.
Wow.
My brother Stephen, what's he going to do? He's 2 years older than Mary. He never worked anyplace else. And you know what? He just went back and totally ignored her and just kept his paycheck. My younger brother John, young father, has a mortgage. What was he going to do? And
this is what people need to understand. The challenges of family businesses is the personalities, it's the history, it's the favorites, it's the unfortunately we're again at the end of time, but I know that conflict is still there, right? You and your sister are still, and that's a continued battle. There are legal issues, there are all sorts of things. We don't have to, so what's the advice you give to a family business that's going through this family conflict with parents and siblings and so on? What would you say to somebody if they came to you and said, hey, Mark, I'm CEO of a company, but there's a lot of family conflict. What should I do?
Communication.
Yeah.
Communication. It's super important. And you know what? You have to have a mediator there, someone that can actually really get to the heart of the personalities of the people and be completely, unequivocally honest.
And honest and open. And so the good news is, and we have to end, is that you've got a great job now. Now, what are you doing now?
So now I compete against my family's business. I represent a company out of Italy, and they make unbelievable products, stuff that is so innovative and awesome, and I have their total support, and the customers love them. and love the products, and we're in the forefront of a lot of different things, especially with all this COVID-19 stuff going out, working with healthcare and healthcare laundries, issuing scrubs and things like that.
Wow.
And doing and just reinventing a lot of markets with with e-commerce and tracking RFIDs and computer software and IR and all this fun, robotics, all kinds of stuff.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, clearly, and I've known you love what you're doing now, but this family business story is a saga that happens all the time. And Mark, I want to thank you so much for being open and honest. Congratulations. You're doing a wonderful job globally with the new company. And so thank you very much, my friend. And,
my pleasure.
Maybe we'll even have you on again. So I want to...
I'd love to talk.
Yes. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching another episode of Family Business World. Again, I'm Dr. Dale Caldwell. I hope that you each will make an effort to support a family business and know how important they are to society. Thank you very much.